Okay, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Today is Sunday. Sunday. Um, all right, yeah. So today is Sunday. It's Mr. Misbrew again. And oof, I'm here to get on people's nerves today. Why? I do not know. No, honestly, I saw an interesting story on Facebook today, and the guy was talking about like artists you should avoid. And Jay-Z popped up. And when I saw it, I already knew why. You know, people have always been talking about the supposed devil signs and all that type stuff, and it just really interested me a little bit. And you know, I've never really been a big Jay Z follower. Like I've never really been a big Jay Z fan. In fact, I think I only have like 3 songs of Jay Z's in my collection. I think of like all the music I listen to, probably only 3 songs to be honest. Um, I never really followed Jay Z just because of the fact that when Pac and Big was out, like nobody really was messing with Jay Z. He really didn't blow up until after Pac and Big had kind of passed away, you know. So for me, it was like I just really wasn't a big fan. Um, but I did always like hear like little kind of like of course, because people play it on the radio and stuff like that. And I remember when he came out and called himself like J Hove or whatever like that, and he did the song, and like I'm somebody who's been reading the Bible like ever since I was a kid. So when I heard him say Jehovah, I was like, did he just call himself God? Like that's how I took it, you know. But it is what it is, you know. And the guy like kind of like brought out names of Crowley and Masons and stuff like that. And Crowley's another one whose name has been on the radar like ever since I've been young. And I think maybe this segment is probably me go more into Crawley than the whole Jay Z thing because for me, who you choose to listen to is your decision and that's your choice. You know, like everything, and I think this is my more why I'm going into Crawley because Crawley is the one who phrased the saying, "Do what thou will," and it's basically saying Crawley took that phrase and basically the way is do what it is that makes you happy to go into your will. Like basically, yeah, like do without will. And Crawley has always faced a lot of backlash for that. Even I, like for years, hated Aleister Crawley. Like I hated Aleister Crawley whenever I would hear the name. Like if I heard that saying in a song, I would immediately stop listening to that band. Like I stopped listening to Mudvayne because in a Mudvayne song, Mudvayne said, "Do what thou wilt." And honestly, I had stopped like when I first heard it, like as somebody who like kind of I don't say I go into the dark arts and things like that, but I have studied stuff over years, and it's like so when I heard it, I automatically knew who it came from and who said it, because like I said, that is a Crawley statement. Um, but some backstory into Crawley. Crawley was a man who grew up under very religious parents. Father was a Quaker, was very religious. Rich man. He was a rich man. Um, and Crawley actually admired his father. He had a lot of admiration for his father. He lost his father when he was 11. Um, his mother actually gave Crawley the nickname of the Beast. And some of that reason is because, like he even stated, he was like, well, he grew up in such a Christian background, and some of the things he was doing as he got older kind of went against Christian tradition. So he said he understood why, his mother and people like that came after him the way they came after him. Um, on his honeymoon when he was in Egypt, supposedly a supernatural entity came to him and he wrote the book of the law. The book of the law is where that phrase, do what thou will, comes from. And honestly, like I said, when I was younger, I really wasn't a big fan of Crowley. That was my best friend just entering out of the picture. But yeah. But like I said, I wasn't a big fan of Crowley. But as I've grown older, I've kind of understood Crowley a lot more. In a weird way, I don't honestly say that because, like Crowley lost his father at the age of 11. And they said that's around the time when he started to kind of, what they quote, misbehave, and when they started going against his Christian upbringing and things of that nature. Um, I lost my mother at 12. And I'm not even gonna lie. A lot of my, I don't want to say backlash against Christianity, but I really grew up in a Christian household myself. Probably not to the extent of what he grew up in, but I did grow up in a very Christian household. And me losing my mother at the age I lost my mother at really left a lot of questions for me. It left me looking for a lot of answers. It left me very mad. And I was mad at two things. I was mad at the people that was telling me that my mother was in a better place. And I was mad at God for taking my mother. And I'll be very honest about that. And for years, instead of seeking counsel from people, I was basically reading the Bible like crazy. But I was reading the Bible looking for holes to almost find that God didn't exist. Trying to find answers to why my mother left. And I'm not trying to compare myself to Crowley or anything like that, because, like I said, Crowley supposedly this supernatural being when he was on his honeymoon, gave him the knowledge to write the book of the law and things of that nature. But I see similarities in Crowley and what's going on with a lot of young people now, because in a lot of ways I feel like Christianity has really turned its back on a lot of young people, and they're confused and they don't know what they're going into. And because if you really look at the backstory of Crowley, as Crowley started to travel the world, because like I said, his father left him some of the inheritance because his father had a brewing company. So when his father passed, he left Crowley money. And, you know, Crowley started to travel the world. He started to take on, he started studying Hinduism. He started studying Buddhism. He started studying stuff that he felt would help him be a better person. Supposedly this man was a spy for one of the governments. I think it was for like maybe the British government. Suppose he may have been a spy for him. But some of the things he was also called out for was, him being bisexual, him doing drug abuse and stuff like that. Like to think about it, this man died. I think it was like in it was the 1800. Let me see. Okay, no, he passed in 1947. But, we're talking about a very religious time period. So a lot of the things he was doing, homosexuality, bisexual, was always frowned upon by the church. You know, so like he was doing things that the church really frowned upon, especially during the time he lived. You know, um, it's weird because, like I said, I studied. I'm not even gonna lie. I was working on a book probably about 10, 15 years ago. And I'm the type of person, like, if I'm going to study on something, then I really study on it. I try to really study on it. So the book I was working on it was going to be like a, a horror novel about, like, Lilith and, like, the angels and things like that. So I started really diving deep into it. And, so this segment for me is a little personal just from the standpoint, like, it kind of drove me a little crazy. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, there was even a brief period for like a couple of months, like I started hearing voices and things like that. And I'm not even gonna lie, like I tried to commit suicide. Like it just, not, you know how they're saying is not everything is for everybody, and sometimes you got to be careful what you're looking for because sometimes you might actually find that shit. And like, yeah, like I started studying like, Mesopotamian stuff, Babylonian angels and demons and things of that nature. And then you start looking and you're reading the Bible, and then you start reading like other things outside of the Bible, and then other things and other things. And yeah, it can drive you fucking crazy if you really get deep into it. And it kind of took me a little bit overboard, and I wound up spending about 2 months in a psychiatric ward. Um, Afterwards, from that whole experience, yes. But that's just me, and I'm gonna stay off of me. But like I said, a lot of times when it comes to talking about spirituality and religion, it does drive deep for me because my mother was a very religious person. Over the years, I've really stepped away from religion because of the loss of my mother at a young age. Um, I am agnostic. I am not atheist. I want to believe in God. I try to talk to God every morning. It's kind of crazy because there's a movie I love, The Kingdom of Heaven. It has the guy who played Legolas from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and he was trying to hear from God, and the guy suggested him to go to Jerusalem, and he wound up going to Jerusalem. This was around the time of the Crusades and stuff like that. And sometimes I ask myself, like, oh, damn, maybe I got to make a visit to Jerusalem one day or something like that. Maybe it'll help me hear from God a lot better. But anyway, like I said, that's one of the reasons I'm kind of like going all over the place with this, and just because, like, it is a very touchy subject to me when it comes to spirituality and things of that nature. But like anyway, like I said, when it comes to Crowley, I don't knock Crowley because, like I said, I feel like the nature of Crowley is what a lot of young people are going through now. You know, Christianity, and I don't want to say it's outdated, but I feel like some of its beliefs are outdated, and I don't want to offend anyone by saying it, but I do believe it is. Now, because don't get me wrong, I do believe in the Ten Commandments, and I try to follow the Ten Commandments as best as I can. Um, have I flawed? Fuck yeah, I flawed. I mean, I'm just being honest. I have flawed a lot when it comes to certain things, but I do try to follow the Ten Commandments. But when it comes to Moses and the 616 laws, I feel like they're a little harsh in a lot of ways. I personally do not believe homosexuality is a sin. I believe what two consenting adults do with each other is fine as long as they're both consenting adults. And like I always say, and this is one of the reasons why I had a dislike of Crowley as being young, is because a lot of people talk about this for whatever it is supposed to be in the eye or whatever like that. But when I first heard about Crowley, someone told me that the eye was supposed to be a sign of them having sex with young children. And that was the first time I heard about Crowley. It was supposed to have been, somebody was telling me, yes, that they was having sexual acts with kids. And this was supposed to be a representation of them taking the virginity of young boys. And that was the first time I had heard about Crowley. Now, when I've done my studying on Crowley, as I got older and studied Crowley on my own, I didn't see any of that. So I have no idea if that was true. It's unfortunate because no group really holds themselves accountable for the shit that they do. And I say that in the sense that Christianity always attacks. Christianity is the worst of doing this because Christianity always attacks any group that's not like them, but they do it more so than any other group. But Christianity never holds itself accountable for the shit they do. Like, look at how they attack Muslims for when they do the things they do. But if you look at how many murders that are committed by Christians, maybe we overlook it because most people don't scream out that they're Christians when they're doing their murders. But There are a lot of people who wear that cross, they got that cross tattoo, and they're committing murders, heinous murders every day. And we never call out Christianity for that. But the second that someone does something that's of the Islamic faith, these Christian news media goes crazy. They go crazy about it. Christianity is one of the only groups that never holds itself accountable for its sins. Let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. They never hold themselves accountable for their sins, but they are so comfortable with calling everybody else out. And it's funny because, and I think it's one of the reasons why Jesus told his disciples not to take titles. Because when you take a title, that title is expected of you. You call yourself a pastor, you call yourself a reverend, you call yourself a. I've met people who call themselves apostles. Apostles aren't getting drunk and touching kids. Pastors aren't touching kids. Preachers aren't going around killing people. This isn't stuff that people who take these titles are supposed to be doing, but they're doing it every day. Every day they're doing it, but they're fine with calling out every other group who's doing these things. You know, like there was a time when Christianity faith would have you thinking that everybody that was a homosexual was a deviant, that they were out here touching kids. We know that not to be true. There are deviants in the homosexual community who probably do things like that from time to time, but there are people from every group, unfortunately, that's going around messing with kids. I mean, it's a sad thing to say, but it's not just one group of people doing that. It's just people all over the world that's doing this. But Christianity will have you thinking that, oh, in fact, there's a great case about a group of young ladies. They were like a group of like young lesbians, young girls, and they had accused of I think some kids who went missing. And the town immediately went after this group of young girls with no proof whatsoever, just because they knew that some of the girls in this group were lesbian. You know, and it's like Christianity has made such a bad name for itself that I think that's why a lot of younger people stay away from it because they're so judgmental, but they don't live up to it. Moses wasn't it Moses who said that a man who judges will be judged 7 times? You know, Jesus himself talked about throwing the first stone. Let he who have sinned throw the first. Let he who have not sinned throw the first stone. So yeah, Christianity is really on the downfall. Is really on the downside. And I was going to do two stories in one because there's the whole thing with the after school Satan club going on right now. It's an interesting topic that I want to talk about. I'm gonna save that one for next Sunday though because that's an interesting topic that I also want to talk about. Yeah, but the whole thing with the Crowley and Jay Z thing, like at the end of the day, this is what Crowley was really telling people what to do. Crowley was telling people to do things to make you comfortable. You know, like him studying the Hindu and Buddhism, it wasn't that Crowley was the Antichrist. It wasn't that Crowley was a beast. Crowley was trying to find what made him comfortable within his own skin. And if that's a sin, then let it be what people believe it to be. But I don't really see that as being a sin because at the end of the day, and I'll go as far as to say, and if I have to burn standing on that stone, then I'll burn standing on that stone. Just from the standpoint, you have to find in you what makes you the best version of you. You know, I sometimes ask myself that question in the sense that we become so convoluted as man. Am I a reflection of God or is God a reflection of me? I sometimes ask myself that question. And I don't say that question in the sense of me saying I'm God. I'm just saying Who am I? Who am I? Like I always say this, and this is one thing I will always stand by. If I'm special, that means that the man laying in filth on the street is also special. Because there's nothing special about me that would make me more important than the next man. You know, God gives me the same energy that He gives everybody else. Maybe there are things that maybe may put that person in more favor because maybe they do things different. I don't know. But it's not my place to judge another man for how he wants to live his life. And like I always say, you know, if as long as you're not touching kids and as long as you're consenting adults and doing what you're doing, I really don't care. Like, if a man want to go home, because one of the things about Crowley was like, he said without will, but he also mentioned doing ceremonial magic and stuff like that. I'm not really into the whole ceremonial magic. I know a couple of Wiccans. I honestly do know a couple of Wiccans who do practice certain things. Like I'm not really into that though, and basically because I haven't really studied into it that much. But hey, you got you feel comfortable at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, you living your life for you. You know, like I said, Crawley is a perfect example of that. His parents he grew up in a very strict household with his parents, and like he said, that just didn't work for him. And there are a lot of people who grow up in households where their lifestyle doesn't work for them, and they have to go out and branch out on their own. You know, and you have to do what makes you feel comfortable, what makes you good as a man, woman, whatever you want to be called, whatever you want to do. Like I said, my whole thing has just always been just don't harm people when doing what makes you feel comfortable. Like as long as you're doing you and you're not harming anybody in the process, I just say have at it because you have the right to choose what you want to do. Like I said, God told Moses that I want the children of Israel to come to me to find me. You know, and different for everybody else. Everybody's journey is going to be different. Some people may not want to find God. That's what God said. God said He wants His children to want to find Him. Everybody's journey is going to be different. Everybody's going to look at. Everybody's going to look and search a different way. Some people may not. Some people may find Him later in life than other people will. Some people may never find Him because they may not want to find Him. But it's up to that individual. And whatever God you serve, that's also fine. You know, Bill Burr told the joke when he was making the fun of Scientology when he was like, you know, Bill Burr grew up in a Catholic household, and he was like, you know, if they want to believe in spaceships, he's like, that's fine, because he was like, for years, he grew up believing a motherfucker could moonwalk on water. But it's up to you. It's up to you to decide. So I will finish off today by saying, do what thou wilt. Do what makes you feel comfortable in your skin. If you're not hurting anybody, hey man, do you? You know, and the whole thing about Jay Z, because I mentioned Jay Z name, but look, I just wasn't never a big Jay Z fan, and but I did notice the little Jay to the Hova comment he did, and I think it was the song was called Izzo. I think I did notice that, but look, how many times have we heard people calling themselves the rap god? So I don't know how Jay Z was using that comment, and I don't follow deep into the imagery and stuff like that. People like to see these videos and they like to pick them apart. Oh, she did this and he did that, and that's the mark of the beast. And let me tell y'all something. The Book of Revelation says the mark of the beast is the mark of a man. So you know what that means? That means every man is the mark of the beast on him already. It's already imprinted in him. So it is what it is. And no, be kind, be nice, look out for each other, and have a great day.